So I decided to do my project on the history of the Cold War. I think it's a really interesting topic considering that there was no actual physical altercation that took place. Um, my outline for the presentation um, will start with an introduction, what was the Cold War, with a nice graph of the weapons stockpiling that happened, followed by the cause of the Cold War, and then what did the Cold War mean for those involved? How did it change the US and how did it change Russia? And what was the effect of the Cold War? How did it change the international relations between Russia and the United States? And then it will all be related to what we learned in class and what we can learn from this in the future. So the Cold War was a conflict that happened between the United States and Russia following the Korean War in the 1950s. This conflict led to the stockpiling of weapons on behalf of both Russia and the US. As you can see in the graph, it really skyrocketed, especially for Russia. Even though the Cold War did not encompass a physical conflict between the two nations, it did change international relations in ways that we are still seeing today. The cause for the Cold War, there were a lot of factors that contributed to it happening. One of the most notable being the differences in the economic ideologies on behalf of the US and Russia. It was that capitalism versus communism question of which is better. The other factors include the Korean War, nuclear weapon creation and stockpiling. There were a lot of disagreements over Germany following World War II with the Warsaw Pact and such, and just general foreign policy disagreements. The Cold War took place from 1946 to 1991 and resulted in no actual casualties because it was not a war of physical confrontation, hence how it got its name, the Cold War. What did the Cold War mean for the United States and Russia? Issues with communism were the leading factors for this. The United States follows the capitalist ideology, creating free markets and fair competition between companies. The government doesn't really intervene or regulate the production and consumption of goods in the United States and, well, in all capitalist societies. Contrary to this, the USSR participated in communism, which allows the government to control the economy and means of consumption. A quote from a BBC article says, "Both sides wanted countries to conform to their adopted ideologies for their own gains." So it was this competition as to who can spread their ideologies the fastest and the farthest. Some lasting effects of the Cold War. The United States and Russia have since had a really complicated relationship following the end of the Cold War. I guess some of the most notable examples of this is the relationship between Trump and Putin, with claims of corruption and unjust leadership and lack of accountability. It's also seen in sanctions between the US and Russia. This relationship was further complicated following the fall of the USSR, which happened, I believe, in 1992, following the end of the Cold War. The fall of communism and the USSR is linked to Gorbachev, who attempted a shift towards democracy through an increase in rights for Russian citizens, allowing them to speak out against the government and express themselves more openly and freely. International relations have been shaped by the Cold War as well. I found this really cool book as a reference for this. There was this rise in pluralism and polarized opinions on both the US and Russia and capitalism and communism and what it means to be a world power. And there was a newfound understanding of world order, to name a few. The most important of these is the rise of pluralism. A quote from the book says, "It is pluralism that accepts the relevance of many different approaches to international relations, approaches that stress the significance of ideas and norms, the impact of domestic political and economic structures on international politics. Conclusion. Although the Cold War was caused by multiple factors, the most notable factors were the difference in economic ideologies and the arms race. The Cold War led to both the United States and Russia making significant scientific breakthroughs in regards to space exploration and weapons creation. It left lasting effects on international relations that we're still seeing today. The appreciation of pluralism, polarized opinions on politics and economics, and the new view on the world order by the Allied countries. I think a notable thing that I didn't mention in this presentation was the Cuban Missile Crisis that happened between the US, Cuba, and Russia, Cuba being communist as well. And there was this scare that nuclear weapons were going to be shot off, and that was going to be it, which really brought tensions to an all-time high at that point. Thanks, President Kennedy. You did a great job. And my works cited.